Good afternoon or morning, depending on your time zone. My name is John Butt, and I work with the University of Colorado, Denver, and for our department, CU Online, which manages all of our online academic programs. And I'd like to welcome you to our MSIS program information session, the Masters of Science in Information Systems. We're going to spend the next 35 to 45 minutes talking about the program in depth, discussing admissions requirements, funding. You'll hear from one of our current students in the program. As we're going along, you do have the option of participating by asking your questions. In the toolbar, you'll see a button that says Q&A. As we're going along, if there's something that I don't cover, if you have a pressing question, whatever the case may be, feel free to type those questions out, and I will either get to them as I go through this presentation, or I'll make sure that we have some time at the end. So thank you for joining us, and we'll get going here. To start off, I just want to give you a quick overview of the agenda so you have an idea of what we'll be discussing today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the program, providing a high-level overview. We'll discuss the admissions checklist, what you need to know to get into the program, and the associated deadlines. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about financial aid and cost because, of course, that's important. Pursuing a graduate degree is an investment not only of your time, but also your finances, and we certainly want to be aware of that. I'll also spend some time discussing what our current student population looks like and give you an idea of the different degrees that are represented, where students are coming from geographically. And I'll also highlight some of our faculty members so you have an idea of some of their expertise. We'll discuss business career connections. You'll hear from one of our student ambassadors, Matt Schneider. I'm going to put his picture up here. Matt lives and works here in Colorado, but because of his schedule, he prefers to take online classes, and so he's going to be a great resource and wealth of information. And then, like I mentioned, at the very end, I'll save some time to answer any questions that you have. So as you look to enroll in our program, you have a full team here at the university that is going to support you at every step of the way. So Shelley Townley is the Director of Admissions for the Business School. Dan Hussey is the Assistant Director of Recruitment. And then, as I mentioned, my name is John Butt. It's an unfortunate last name, but I was born with it and just roll with it. And I work with CU Online, like I mentioned, our division that manages fully online academic programs. So my position really is to help you transition as seamlessly, as smoothly as possible into the academic program. We don't want the admissions and the application process to be a barrier. And so I'm here really to help you as you're requesting transcripts, as you have questions about the GMAT, GRE, and we'll talk about all of these things as we move forward. And then, of course, you'll have those connections within the business school to process your application and to walk you through the different steps in terms of registering for classes and providing you with all the information you need to know. We also have, from the faculty and administrative viewpoint, we have Dr. Jahangiri Karimi. He is the program director of the MS in Information Systems program. He's a professor within the program as well. So as you progress through the program, the chances are very high that you'll have him there. And he's there really to offer guidance and support to students and to really make sure that the program remains at the forefront of the market, that we're responsive to the changing needs of the community, of corporations, and that the technology element is keeping up with trends and things of that nature as well. So I'll talk about the program overview now. And like I said, this is going to be fairly high level, but hopefully it touches on all of the key questions that you might have as you're reviewing your graduate degree options. So this is a Master's of Science. And I'd like to point that out because there is a difference between Masters of Arts, Masters of Education. This one is a STEM designated program. So for a lot of students that are looking for programs, that designation can be important, especially if you're working in the science and technology field. You want a degree that's going to translate and that's going to give you that credibility within your specific discipline. There are 10 classes total. Each class is 3 semester hours in length. So when you finish the degree, you'll have earned 30 credits in total. The program is offered fully online. So no matter where you are in the US and the world, you're going to be able to complete this program fully online. If you are in the Denver area and a number of our students are, including the fully online ones, you do have the potential option of taking classes here on campus, either in a hybrid format or fully in person. So that's one of the great benefits of our program. The faculty, the coursework, it's all the same. Whether you're doing online or in person, you're going to be interacting with the same students, the same faculty member, and ultimately you'll earn the same degree regardless of which format or method you take your courses. We have 3 concentrations that are fully online: business intelligence, enterprise technology management, and then web and mobile computing. And I'll talk about all 3 of those in more depth in the next couple of slides. A few other things to point out. So we are AACSB accredited. That is really the top accrediting agency for business schools worldwide. It's an honor to have that. There are various rules, regulations, things of that nature that your university and your school of business need to be in alignment with to receive that accreditation. So we're really proud of that. And then we're also considered a military-friendly school and have that gold standard ranking here for the past couple of years. Matt, you'll hear from him. He's a veteran as well. And it's really something that we try and make sure we're working hard to meet the needs of that student. So if you're a veteran, if you have military experience and you have questions about the GI Bill or things of that nature, we have a team here at the university that are experts in that area and can provide you with the support that you may need. Oh, and one other thing I'll mention here too. So a lot of questions that we get relate to what does an online course look like? How is it operated? We use a learning management system called Canvas. And there are a few other ones out there that you may have heard or you may have used in the past, but we really like Canvas because it allows our faculty to create course content, exams, videos, presentations, whatever the case may be, that can really engage students, again, wherever they may be accessing the course. So each faculty member is different in their approach. Some are using video recordings exclusively. Some prefer guided discussion boards, threaded discussions. So every faculty member is going to be a little different in their approach, but they'll all use the Canvas learning management system, which works really well, I think, for the needs of our students. So the 3 concentrations that I mentioned, these are all, again, fully online. There are other concentrations available within the business school, but those typically require some element of in-person course attendance. But there are 3, as I mentioned, that can be completed fully online. Business intelligence, this is probably one of our more popular ones. I think business intelligence in general is something that is very well received in the marketplace. A lot of organizations are looking for individuals that have expertise in some of these key areas that I've put here on the screen. So this really looks at systems, it's looking at operational data. And as you see, the ultimate objective is to improve timeliness, quality of inputs to the decision process within an organization. So the course options within this concentration are things like database management, information systems management and strategy, business intelligence and financial modeling, data mining, and there are other courses as well. So each concentration typically has 2 required classes, and then from there you have a number of electives within the business intelligence curriculum, and then you're typically given some freedom with an additional elective or 2 that you can really guide sort of the direction of the program based on your career interest or your future interest. So business intelligence is the first one. The next one is enterprise technology management. And as you see, this one really is focused on information technology as the driver of business strategy. So you're looking at complex organizational issues related to strategy, technology, finances, and you can see some of those course options here in the bottom. Again, a security and privacy course, a project management course, emerging technologies, systems and strategy. So really looking again at driving the business strategy from a technology standpoint. And then the third fully online concentration is web and mobile computing. So you see this one really is focused on how we can use platforms for website development, mobile and wireless applications, and then the architectures related to web services. You'll take analysis, modeling, and design, database management systems. There's a .NET programming fundamentals course, internet and mobile technologies. So these last 3 slides are fairly wordy, and I do apologize for that, but I do want to give you as comprehensive of an overview of the types of coursework that's involved, because depending on where you currently are in your career or maybe where you're looking to advance your career, certain classes and certain concentrations are certainly going to be more appealing and set you up for that success that you're looking for. So now I'll jump over into the admission checklist. So essentially this answers the question, how do I get into the program? We do have an online application, and there are 2 different application fees. So if you're a domestic student, there's a $50 application fee. If you're international, that application fee is $75. We do require copies of your transcripts from any and all institutions that you've attended. So whether you have, maybe you attended a community college, multiple 4-year institutions, we need all of those transcripts. Perhaps you have an additional master's degree, we'll need those transcripts as well. So I like to point that out just because that step can take a little extra time. So you want to build that into your timeline as you're looking to apply to the degree. The program does require the GMAT or the GRE. Having said that, we offer a waiver, and on the next slide, I'll go into that in more detail so you're aware of the qualifications. If you do find that you're in the category of an applicant that does need the GMAT or GRE, these are the average scores. So the average GMAT is right around a 580, which is a competitive score. Average GRE is roughly a 155 on the verbal and the quantitative sections. When it comes to these tests, keep in mind these are averages. So we have students that are coming in with lower scores. We have students that are coming in with higher scores. We have a holistic admissions process. So we're looking at your undergraduate GPA, we're looking at your professional work experience, and then we're looking at these test scores as well. So there certainly is some flexibility with those scores. As part of your application, you'll also upload a copy of your resume so that we do have an idea of what your work experience is. We don't require work experience within this program, but I think what you'll find is that the majority of students coming in, on average, probably have anywhere from 5 to 10 years of work experience. And we certainly have individuals with 20 plus, we have some individuals with less than 5, but that average is probably 5 to 10. I get a lot of questions about the need for recommendation letters or references. These are optional for the MS program, so you can certainly request them. They can never, well, shouldn't say never, but they typically don't hurt your application, certainly if you know the people that are writing your references and know that they're writing strong positive ones. So keep that in mind, but they are optional, not a requirement. You will, as part of your application, you'll answer typically 4 short essay questions, and these are really just a chance for our admissions committee to get to know you a little bit better. So the questions are going to revolve around your interest in this program and how you see it fitting into your long-term goals. And again, that's going to be done as part of the application. We don't require interviews, so those essay questions, again, are really the best chance for our team to get to know you a bit better. And then there is a language requirement. If English is not your native language, we do require the TOEFL or the IELTS, which are both tests of the English language. So let's talk a little bit then about the GMAT waiver. This option currently is only available to students that are pursuing the MSIS program fully online. So if you fall into that category, then this will certainly be of interest to you. So in order to qualify, we're typically looking for an undergraduate cumulative GPA of a 3.0. That does need to come from an accredited institution, or a 3.25 GPA in the last 60 credit hours. So really that recency can help you. We certainly understand that many students start out and you can take some time to find your footing and adjust to the college experience. So a lot of times we'll see those first 2 years especially, maybe the GPA isn't quite as high as the applicant had hoped, but as long as you can show that you were progressively improving, that certainly matters. So if you have that undergraduate GPA of a 3.0 and you have 5 or more years of full-time professional work experience that shows some level of progression, then you qualify, and we would certainly encourage you to submit the waiver request form. It is completely up to we have a committee, our program director reviews those, and so it's certainly up to their discretion, but these are the minimum requirements for the waiver. Or if you have a previous master's degree, you are also eligible to request that the GMAT be waived. As I mentioned, these do have to be requested and they're subject to review. Usually the way the process works is you'll submit your application to the program first, and then you'll submit the waiver request form. And that's a link that I can provide you. And in that, we're just going to ask you to sort of summarize your resume, summarize that professional work experience you have. Let us know the types of progression you've experienced. So maybe you're supervising team members, maybe you oversee a budget, maybe you just have that constant commitment within an organization that's being reflected in advancement in terms of positions. Whatever the case may be, we're going to give you the opportunity to summarize it. Our committee will review it, and then typically within 2 weeks, we try and have a response to you that lets you know if you've received the waiver, and if you have, that comes with an admissions offer as well. If you haven't, then we try and make those decisions quickly so that you can begin the process of preparing for the GMAT. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking to you about the best way to approach the test. But again, this is the overview of the waiver process. And if you are applying, let me know. I'll send you that waiver request form and we can get that process rolling as well. So let's say you do need to take the GMAT or the GRE. I can tell you as someone that's taken the GRE 3 times that it is an intensive test and it really shouldn't be undertaken lightly. You really want to spend, I would say, at least 1 to 2 months preparing pretty intensively for these exams. They're covering a very broad range of material, both from the quantitative and the verbal or qualitative sections. A lot of this is material that many of us haven't reviewed since, for me, probably my junior year in high school, certainly the math section. So I really needed to take plenty of time to review concepts and just essentially relearn those. So I always recommend starting with a study guide. And Kaplan, Princeton Review, GMAT, ETS, these are just a few of the companies that have published books or study guides. And these can be purchased from your local bookstore, online through Amazon. But these are really a great starting point, and they all come with full-length practice tests that are invaluable. There are also some really amazing preparation classes that are available both online and in person. Those can range in terms of the fees that are associated with them. So depending on your needs, you'll just want to approach those, again, based on what you're looking for. And then there are also some really great free options. Ready4 and Magoosh both offer free flashcards. So if you go into the App Store on your smartphone, they offer some fantastic math review, verbal review, things of that nature. So you can go through practice test on your lunch break or wherever you find that you have 15 to 30 minutes of free time. You can open these apps and quickly get some additional studying in. And then those companies also offer online prep materials that have a cost associated with them, but they tend to be fairly economical. So those are good resources that I recommend as well. But like I said, you don't want to rush into this. You don't want to run out and take it next week. It's an intensive test, and I certainly want to see you, and I know you do as well, see you score competitively so that it's one less hurdle that you face. So here are the deadlines then. We always encourage our students to apply early, and that's just to allow our committee time to fully review your application. If you are needing to request multiple transcripts, if you're needing to take the GMAT, you really want to give yourself plenty of time. So with that said, the next term that we're admitting for is fall 2018, which starts this upcoming August. The deadline is just around the corner. So the final deadline for fall is going to be June 30th. So I would really encourage you, if you're looking to start your academic program this year and want to, maybe you have company benefits that you're looking to take advantage of, I'd really encourage you to aim for this, this final deadline. If you qualify for the waiver, then that can certainly expedite the process. If you've already taken the GMAT, or maybe you're taking it this month, you still have time. If you've not started studying for the GMAT yet, it really, at that point in time, I'd say we're starting to run up against the deadline, but you know yourself best, your capabilities, but there certainly is still time to get your application in to start with us in the fall semester. And you'll see for international students, the deadline is a little different just because there is additional time that goes into the review process particularly when it comes to international transcripts. If you're living domestically, though, and are on a visa, then we can work with you with that June 30th deadline as well. And then you'll see for spring, final deadline is November 30th. Summer is April 30th. The priority deadlines, those are there just to allow for more time for processing. But those typically apply more to students that are taking in-person classes, so you can really focus in on those final deadlines. So here's the financial investment. Looking at our tuition fees for the 2017-2018 year, these are the approximate costs that include tuition and fees. So for our in-state fully online students, you're looking at $621 per credit hour. So including the fees, which are less than in-person because you're not paying things for, or paying fees associated with, say, the Student Recreation Center, you're looking at right around $21,000. For out-of-state fully online, that bumps up to about $24,000, and that's at $725 per credit hour. And like I said, I have calculated the fees into that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a brief moment. So again, these estimates are based on the 2017-2018 tuition and fees, and the estimates are based on 6 semesters of enrollment. Most of our students that work full-time average 2 classes per semester. At that rate, you could feasibly finish in 6 semesters. At the same time, our program is very flexible. So you may discover that you need to take a semester off. Maybe you need to only take 1 class in a summer term or a spring term. Whatever the case may be, we can work with you if you need to take a little additional time. But again, these are your approximate cost just as you consider the financial investment. So let's spend a little bit of time talking about how you're going to go about financing that investment. At the graduate level, student loans are still available. These are, unless you're seeking out a private loan, these are typically going to be managed through the U.S. Department of Education. And there's a form that's called the FAFSA that you would fill out. And they use your previous year's tax return to calculate how much aid you qualify for. These are loans, which means they do have to be paid back. At the graduate level, grants are no longer available, which are the ones that don't have to be paid back. But most students will qualify for some level of student loans, and usually at least the amount that they need to cover the cost of the program. There are scholarships offered through the department. Many of them are based on merit, so those tend to go toward the students that are taking the GMAT and that are scoring quite competitively. But there are those scholarships available through the department, and we have a list that we can share. A lot of our students are working professionals, and because of that, a lot of times there are employer reimbursement options for them. If you're not certain if your company provides any sort of tuition benefits, I would find your HR representative and ask. It never hurts to ask. And we have found that a lot of companies offer this. And then there are, of course, other resources. And I always encourage people to do, it's cliched, but do a Google search, because there are scholarships out there that are available based on numerous categories. And so you certainly want to consider all of your options. As it relates to the cost, something that I do like to point out is here in Colorado, and really any of these states that you see on this map, there's a program called the Western Regional Graduate Program. And basically it's an agreement between these various states that if you live in any of these states and are taking classes in the other one, you may qualify for in-state tuition. So the MSIS program participates in this. So let's say you live in California or Montana or New Mexico, you are eligible to receive in-state tuition rates as a resident of those states. And you see the qualifications: it's residing in that eligible state prior to the start of your first term, be admitted into a qualifying program, which, as I mentioned, the MS in Information Systems is, and then you maintain your residency in that state until your degree completion. So a fantastic program. If you do reside in one of those states and you're pursuing our program, let me know. There are certain forms that you fill out to indicate that this is the program that you're pursuing. But again, a really great way of making the program even more economical for students that reside in this Western region. So at this point in time, I'm going to move on and talk about our faculty, and then we'll discuss our students. So one of the things that I think really sets our program apart is the quality of the faculty that teach within it. And as I mentioned, our faculty teach both the in-person classes and the online classes, which ensures you're receiving an equitable program. We want to make sure that if you run into a student that completed this program in Denver and you completed it, say, from New York, that you're going to have had the same experience, the same points of reference, the same education, knowledge, etc. And that really starts with our faculty. So I'm going to highlight a couple of them. They're a very diverse group. Their bios are available on the CU Denver website, so if you'd like to explore that in more detail, I would certainly encourage you to do that. But one of the first ones that I'll point out is Dr. Dawn Gregg. Dawn has her PhD in Computer Information Systems, and she is the current Director of Assessment for the Business School here at CU Denver. You can see some of the classes that she teaches at the bottom, but in addition to that academic knowledge, she's bringing a lot of real-world experience based on her previous work within a variety of different corporations. She was the CEO of a software development company. She's worked as a research and development engineer, and her research specialty is the organization of web content to better meet the needs of businesses. So a really dynamic faculty member that you'll have the opportunity to interact with. This is Dr. Yu Du, who has a PhD in operations research from Rutgers. She's an assistant professor of analytics, and you can see really her area of expertise is statistics within business analytics. You see optimization and machine learning, time series forecasting. She's really is an expert in those, in all of those areas, and things like mathematical optimization, financial engineering. She's heavily involved in academic research. She's a reviewer for multiple peer-reviewed journals, including computational optimization and applications. So someone who's really at the top of her field within the business analytics subdomain. And then the final faculty member that I'll highlight is Dr. Ronald Ramirez. He has his PhD in Management Information Systems from UC Irvine. He's the current director of our undergraduate programs. He's worked in a variety of different fields. He was a senior financial analyst in the telecommunications industry. He's received multiple National Science Foundation awards for his research. He's currently researching virtual team effectiveness and knowledge sharing, which I think is fascinating, especially for those of us that sort of operate here in the online environment. And you see, he really teaches across the spectrum of courses within the graduate program: economics, strategy, management, organizations. So again, we have incredibly diverse faculty that have come to us from all over the world, and our students are really able to benefit from their knowledge and their expertise. So speaking of our students, I'll spend a little bit of time talking about the diversity of our student body. Our students, like I mentioned, are coming to us from a wide range of backgrounds. And what we see is that we have full-time working professionals. That's probably the bulk of our MSIS students, but we do have those that are pursuing the degree as full-time students. The work experience is incredibly diverse, with more than 200 companies represented, and we have students coming to us from business and non-business backgrounds. So in terms of some of those undergraduate majors, I had one of our students, our graduate assistants, run a list to see what is the background of the students that are coming in. Is it just business? Is it related fields? And what you see is an incredibly diverse range of undergraduate degrees. So we have students that are currently in this program that pursued broadcast journalism, political science, accounting, film, biomedical science, information technology. So really, you're sitting in a classroom virtually or physically with students that just have such a wide range of information and experience and knowledge that the learning isn't just taking place from your instructor to you. It's taking place in the conversations and the projects that you're experiencing with your fellow students. This is another fun graphic that we put together based on just a very small sample of where our students are coming from. So these are some of the cities that our current students came to us from. So of course you see Denver, Boulder, some of those Colorado areas, but you also see Moorhead, you see Tempe, Atlanta, Manchester, Cambridge, the list goes on and on. So again, a very rich variety of students that are coming into this program that you'll have the opportunity to interact with and benefit from. So before we move to Matt, who's our current student, I'll wrap up my portion prior to the Q&A just by discussing very quickly the career connections that the business school offers. So as an online student, you have access to everything that's on this list, but the business school is very committed to the career enhancement of its students. And so because of that, if you need individual coaching and assessment to really figure out what are your strengths, what are those areas of challenge for you, how can you present your best self in an interview, how do you negotiate salary, these are all the types of things that the Business Career Connections department is offering. They have alumni connections, so maybe you're just looking to build your network and want to move into a different industry. They can do that. They can do mock interviews with you, professional development webinars. They have a fantastic, active, engaged LinkedIn group. And then you'll also see there's a job bank with email notifications, career information. So again, whether you're looking to promote in your current job, maybe you're looking to switch industries altogether, or maybe you're just looking to get this degree to say that you did it. It's really a point of pride. I think everyone can find something within the Business Career Connections department that can benefit them in their efforts. All right, so at this point in time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Matt Schneider. Matt, as I mentioned, is a current MSIS student. He received his Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and Engineering. Matt, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Schneider, of course, and I currently work at a company called SKLD, and we are a title plant here in Colorado, and I've been here for almost 19 years now, doing programming and back-end system stuff for them, as well as application development. I'm originally from the Denver area, born and raised here. The only time that I spent away was when I was in the Army. Sorry about that. I got my undergraduate from CU in the engineering school, though, in computer science. So I knew what kind of an education that I could get from CU, and that's one of the main reasons that I chose the CU Business School. Now, when it comes to the GMAT, I did not prepare. I took the practice test and did well enough that I just went in and took the test and did all right. Or I should say did well enough to get into the program. Now, what I wish I had done was kind of what John had mentioned, and that was to put a little more effort into that prepping, because it really was a stressful experience once I got into the real test. And one of the things that I really wasn't prepared for was how quiet it was in the testing area, because all of my study had been done in the home with the kids running around doing crazy things. And it was interesting how the pressure went up when it was very quiet. But I would definitely recommend getting on, doing study guides, and taking the practice tests. Take as many of those as you can to get a feel for where you are and what the real experience is going to be like. If you can, when you take the practice test, get a quiet room and try to do it in the time frame that you're going to have to take the actual test when it comes to the GMAT. So far, I just finished up my second semester, and I take 2 classes per semester. That's about all I can manage, working full time and having a family and other various responsibilities. But it definitely is doable. And I spend a fair bit amount of time, probably 6 to 12 hours a week on the courses that I take. And all the courses that I've taken have been awesome. I've gotten a lot out of them. Some of the stuff I can apply here right away. And some of it is I'm really getting this degree more as a prep for potentially moving somewhere else, because I've gone about as far as I can go in my current company because we're a small company and people stay here for a long time. I've been here for almost 19 years, and there are people that at least half the population has been here longer than me. So now that I'm ready to kind of move up again, I need to look outside of our company, and this degree is one of the avenues that I'm employing to hopefully make that happen. So getting back to the courses, they're all really great. And the Canvas tool, or the Canvas web application where all of the material will be presented, and is really good also. It's got a good layout. I can always find what I need to. It's got a bunch of tools for collaborating with other people in the classes and whatnot. So it's really top notch. And all of my instructors have been great. If you have questions, they always make time and they're quick to respond. I think some of the challenges that I've run into, though, in online is making sure that I carve out that time to study and read and respond. Many of the classes, or I should say several of the classes that I've taken have had, like weekly discussion topics that are due on Fridays or something like that. So I need to make sure that during the work week that I carve out time to read up on the material that we need to be discussing, and then become part of the discussion before the weekend, where I like to get most of my work done for classes. So it's really important to set a schedule almost like you're going to class, or at least it is for me, and take that time to every day to do that, or every day, whatever the schedule is that you set. I think the other biggest challenge is since I do have a couple of small kids, is finding that balance between, making time for the family and getting all of my work done and my schoolwork done. It can be a challenge sometimes, and other times it depends, because the ebb and flow of the semester the professors try to balance your time throughout the semester as best they can, but sometimes, if you get a little bit behind, then you're going to really have a crunch. It's just like the undergrad classes to get caught back up, and that can be a challenge. Trying to think of any other advice that might be helpful.
Hey, Matt, this is John. I'm wondering if you might be able to talk a little bit about sort of the course content. So a lot of times I think prospective online students are curious about how the online experience is different, but what are you seeing from your faculty in terms of the types of content and the types of projects? Are you working on group projects? Is it essays? Is it, multiple choice exams? Is it a little bit of everything? What's the content look like?
Oh, sure. Most of it has been, discussion topics, where that'll count as some kind of a towards the grade in some way. So weekly discussions, kind of like you would have in a classroom environment, where there would be a topic, you'd be working through it, and people ask questions and get answers, and everybody chimes in. So a lot of that, and that usually counts towards some kind of participation grade. I've had in almost all of my classes some kind of weekly or bi-weekly test on the material that's usually some kind of multiple choice test or very short answer. And in there's also been group projects for kind of end of semester stuff, some kind of case study or something like that you do together with a couple of other people, or maybe just one other person, to work through in kind of a practical way what you've been learning about. In my programming class, that was just programming assignments. I did a .NET fundamentals class where it was every few weeks there was some kind of programming assignment that we turned in, and that constituted what we were graded on. There's plenty of other reading and tutorials and things to do in that class, but as far as grading, it was programming assignments.
That's great. And then in terms of the networking and the relationship building, I know that that can be another concern for online students. So have you found that you're able to build those relationships with your faculty member where you feel like they know who you are, and maybe even your classmates as well?
Yeah, I tend to be fairly self-motivated and self-contained. So I haven't spent a lot of time conversing with my professors in like trying to understand the material or something like that. But I feel like I've got fairly good working relationships with them as far as turning in assignments and having a few questions answered. They've been really great about that. And they're all fantastically friendly and willing to help you out in any way. So I'm sure that if I went to them with other questions on like industry and things like that, they would be more than happy to help me out or connect me with people who know. As far as connecting with other students, the group assignments that you have, of course, are going to be the best way to make that happen. But Canvas has a lot of tools for, getting a hold of other students, and you can work with them in groups, or you can talk to them one-on-one. And that's the classes and the assignments kind of facilitate that. I think that's a lot of the idea behind the weekly discussions, is to get to know kind of your fellow students and build relationships there. And every one of my classes is asked also at the beginning for some kind of introduction, short half-page kind of essay thing, introducing yourself and telling you about yourself, so that you can get to know your classmates and where they're coming from, and what they've done in the past and things like that.
That's perfect. So we had an attendee ask a question. This is from Neha, and she is asking about the 3 online concentrations. And typically, I'll answer the first part of her question, and then I'm going to point the second part to you. But typically, incoming students are required to select their concentration as they come into the program. Now, there's certainly some flexibility there. So if you get into the program and after your first semester you decide you want to change concentrations, we can certainly work with you there. And then there are usually 2 required courses for the concentration, and then you have a little flexibility in terms of selecting the specific ones within the concentration. So I'm curious, what was your concentration? Why did you choose it? And are you finding the classes that you're taking to be applicable to both your current workplace and maybe setting you up for future success?
Yeah. So my concentration was web and mobile computing. That's what I declared when I came in. And I have since changed that because the classes were so great. The ones that I started out with some classes that pertain to the web and mobile computing, and I really enjoyed those, and they were definitely applicable, and they'll also help me in my new focus, I think, in that I did analysis, modeling, and design, which just kind of works through the process of the complete life cycle of software development and deployment and eventually retirement. But this last semester that I just finished up, I took a data warehousing class, which is an elective for that, but it's one of the key classes for the business intelligence focus. And it got me so interested in the business intelligence stuff that I decided to switch my focus to business intelligence. So be warned, the classes are really good, and you're probably, in taking your electives, you might want to end up changing your focus, because you'll be introduced to topics that you didn't even know were out there, and they might really pique your interest.
That's great. So we have another question from Brandon, who's listening in, and he's asking about the specific programming language requirements for the program. And I'll touch on the first piece and once again turn it over to you because I'm curious about your level of proficiency before you came in. So with the MSIS program, there are no prerequisites for any of the concentrations. So we're not expecting you to come to us with programming language experience. Web and mobile computing is the only concentration that does have a level of programming to it. And you mentioned that, Matt, with the .NET programming. They like to see some level of programming experience, whether it's with Python or this, C Sharp, C++, whatever the case may be. But again, it's not a requirement. I think they do a pretty good job of catching everyone up pretty quickly. But I'd actually love to hear, Matt, about your experience, both in terms of did you have programming experience prior, and then how did that .NET programming class go for you?
Yeah, so I have quite a bit of programming experience because that's what I do here. But it's mostly in scripting languages, Perl, PHP, Visual Basic, and I think as long as you've got kind of the fundamentals, the fundamental concepts of programming, how a program works and the various looping mechanisms and the ideas of variables and things like that, you'll do just fine. The .NET programming class was probably one of the easiest classes that I've taken so far, and that's because I do have an extensive background in programming. Like, it was in a new language, C Sharp, but I was able to pick that up pretty quick. It's a lot more of understanding the syntax of the new language than re-engineering how you understand programming, I should say. But the programming level that you need, I don't think you need the background that I have in order to be successful. Like, you could have some basic programming skills and I think be fairly successful. Like, you'll definitely have to work a little harder in a class that's specifically for programming, like the .NET. A lot more reading to get some of the background on it, but I'm pretty sure you'd be able to do it.
Right, and that's been my experience just in speaking with other students too. That the .NET programming class, I think, is the one. I'll use the word technical, but more, very direct in terms of the material that you're learning. It's getting into the programming language, and it certainly helps if you're coming in with some level of experience. Like you said, just if nothing else for the syntax and sort of understanding the flow. The other two concentrations don't have any level of programming involved in them unless you choose to take the .NET class as essentially an elective. That's a great question. So I think I'm going to check, but I think that is all the questions we've received. So Matt, first I want to thank you for taking time out of your work day just to join us. And then I want to thank everyone who is listening in for taking the time as well. I'm going to send a follow-up email to everyone that was listening in just with additional links to our application, to information on applying for the GMAT waiver, sort of walking you through that. You'll have my contact information. You see Matt's up here on the screen. So feel free to reach out to us. We both want to provide you with all the information you need just to determine if this is a right fit. We understand that you have options at the graduate school level. Matt has had a fantastic experience and I think is very honest too about some of the challenges. So don't hesitate to reach out to him if you want that insider perspective. And if you have any questions for us moving forward, don't